This is the video for the 2.4 notes, which is solving multi-step inequalities. So we've gone through each type of inequality. We did addition and subtraction only. We did multiplication and division only. And now we're kind of tying everything together, and we're to the point here where we're going to have two-step, we might have distribution, we might have variables on both sides. So hopefully this is also helping you with your solving equations because it's very, very similar. So if you look up at your notes, if you look at the top, we filled in this statement. So it says to solve inequalities, use inverse operations, just like when solving equations. So don't forget, inverse operations, those just mean the opposite. So if they add, you subtract. If they multiply, you divide, and then vice versa. Don't forget to flip, remember that means reverse, the inequality symbol when you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number. So we worked on that yesterday with the multiplication and division inequalities. Anytime you are moving a negative number by multiplying or dividing across the inequality, that's when we have to flip that symbol. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and just dive in and get started. So we started out on your notes today working two-step inequalities. If you look at number 1 there on your notes, you have 4b minus 1 is less than 7. So just like with an equation, you are trying to isolate the variable. So you want to move the constant to the other side first. So the opposite of subtracting 1 would be to add 1 to both sides. When you add 1 to both sides, positive and negative will cancel. You bring down your 4b, you bring down your symbol, which was less than, and 7 plus 1 is 8. Then the opposite of multiplying by 4 would be to divide both sides by 4. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4, and I find out that b is less than 2. Once you isolate your variable, then you have your answer. Another thing that we've been talking about all week is the fact that we like our variable on the left side of our inequality. So it's a good idea to just get in the habit of moving it left. It will make it easier for us when we start graphing linear inequalities in two variables. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and look at number 2. It's very similar to number 1, so I want you to pause the video and work that one on your own and check your work with mine. Okay, so on this problem, the first thing I did, just like on the last one, is I moved my constant first. So the opposite of positive 8 is minus 8, so I subtracted 8 from both sides. Negative 28 minus 8 is negative 36. When I brought down my negative 9c, so notice, don't forget to bring down that sign with it, we have negative 9c is greater than or equal to negative 36. The opposite of multiplying by negative 9 is to divide by negative 9. When I realized I was dividing by a negative, I circled my inequality to remind me to reverse it in my answer. So negative 36 divided by negative 9 was 4. I flipped my symbol so it becomes less than or equal. So we have c is less than or equal to 4. Alright. On this next section, we have variables on both sides and we get into some distribution. So let's go ahead and look at number 5. I have 5x minus 12 is less than or equal to 3x minus 4. Since I want to line up with my variables on the left, it's a good idea to just go ahead and move your variables left. So I'm choosing to move the 3x to the left. So the opposite of positive 3x is minus 3x. Remember, when you're moving across an equal sign or moving across an inequality, that's when you do the opposite, okay? So 3x minus 3x will cancel, and 5x minus 3x is 2x. Since I chose to move my variables left, that means that this negative 12 has to go right. So since I'm moving across the inequality, the opposite of minus 12 is plus 12. So I add 12 to both sides. Positive and negative 12 cancel. I bring down my symbol, which was less than or equal, and negative 4 plus 12 is 8. Then at this point, the opposite of multiplying by 2 would be to divide, so I divide both sides by 2, and that gives me x is less than or equal to 4. Once I have my variable isolated, I know I have my answer. Okay, so number 6 is similar to 5, only it has that little bit of an extra step, which is to distribute. Notice there's parentheses here, so I need to multiply the 2 times k and 2 times negative 5. When I do that, I get 2k minus 10 is less than 2k plus 5. Okay? So don't forget to distribute. You do that when you see these parentheses with a number outside. Okay, so once again, I'm going to move my variables to the left. The opposite of positive 2k is to subtract 2k. Now when I do that, what you should notice is that 2k minus 2k is 0. It cancels out. But I also had 2k minus 2k on the right, so they cancel out. So we talked about this with solving equations, and we talked about it in class today. So I'm going to bring down my negative 10, my inequality symbol, which was less than, and I have a 5. Okay, so the question here is negative 10 less than 5? And the answer is yes, it is less than 5. If it's less than 5, then this is one of those that has an infinite number of solutions. Okay, so this has an infinite number of solutions. Just like with an equation, if your variables cancel and what you're left with is true, then it's an infinite number of solutions. Okay, if the variables cancel and what you're left with is not true, then it's no solution. Alright, so this one is similar to the last one we did, so why don't you pause and see if you can work this and then check your work with mine. Okay, so this problem reviewed a couple of things. So the first thing it reviewed is that distribution. So hopefully you multiplied 3 times 2a and got 6a, and 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Then I just brought down my symbol, brought down the stuff on the right. Since I want to end up with my variable on the left, I decided to move 10a to the other side by subtracting, because that's the opposite. Those cancel, and 6a minus 10a is negative 4a. Since my variables were on the left, I knew I had to move the negative 3 to the right. The opposite of subtraction is to add. Those cancel. Negative 11 plus 3 is negative 8. Now when I go to divide by negative 4, I circled my inequality because I know I have to reverse it. So negative 8 divided by negative 4 was positive 2. My inequality flipped to less than or equal to, so I have a is less than or equal to 2. Okay, so if you are still struggling with solving equations or solving inequalities, it's really important that you come in and get some extra help. We will be reviewing solving inequalities and equations for a couple of days prior to our Chapter 2 test, because our Chapter 2 test is cumulative. And that means that there will be a few questions about solving equations and then also the solving inequalities from Chapter 2. So I hope to see you guys in tutoring if you need help, and otherwise I will see you in class. Have a great night.